mentioned cholesterol is not the bad guy, not as bad as we thought, but so we're lowering our cholesterol all the time with drugs or diet, but we have still a strong incidence of heart disease in this country, and get to the root is that
because we're going after the wrong target. The enemy in our diet, and it's to the extent that it's one thing, and it's never one thing. It's always a pattern of eating. It's not one food or one ingredient. But the pattern of eating that is so high in sugar and so high in carbs, which is the recommended diet, the diet we've been given for 30 years, is highly inflammatory. It's not a coincidence that in the past 30 years, since the recommendations became accepted, that we should lower saturated fat, that we should eat lots of complex carbohydrates, that we should have this god-awful food pyramid type diet. I don't care what the latest version of it is. It's still high in carbs, low in fat, low in protein. There's no coincidence that we've experienced an epidemic of diabetes and obesity at the same time. This way of eating has never been done in human history. The human genus has been on the planet for 2.4 million years. Homo sapiens, roughly 100,000 years. McDonald's since 1957. Which one should we base our eating plan on? For most of our time on this planet, the diet, what Patrick Quillen calls the factory-specified diet, the diet that humans run best on, was food, I call it from the Jonny Bowden 4 food groups, food you could hunt, fish, gather, or pluck. We didn't even have agriculture 10,000 years ago, which sounds like a long time to you and me, but on the 24-hour time clock of human history, it's less than a minute. So for most of our time, we did quite well on protein, fat, and fiber. You know, some bitter little fruits we could gather, some nuts, some things we could pluck, whatever happened to grow in the wild, and stuff that you could hunt and fish. And the diet, you know, I started as a weight loss coach, and I built whatever reputation I have, I guess, in the field of weight loss. And I started as a personal trainer before I became a nutritionist. And nearly all of the dietary advice that we gave people came from a fear of cholesterol. The only reason anybody listening to this has ever been told to avoid animal foods and saturated fat is because it raises cholesterol. Well, if cholesterol is not the demon we thought it was, the whole dietary recommendations collapse like a house of cards. And in fact, the interesting thing is saturated fat does raise cholesterol, but it raises the big fluffy particles. So if you look under the hood of your LDL, you actually have a better lipid profile than you did beforehand. And we saw this I'm going to talk about it in my talk today at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. We have study after study after study where people went on these diets that everybody thought they were going to die from a heart attack, and you look at the blood work and it's improved. So again, I'm not advocating that we eat the American diet and add saturated fat to it. What I'm saying is that lots of the substitutions that we were told to do, replace saturated fat with more complex carbohydrates, have actually, in the research, shown to advance cardiovascular disease, not reduce it.